Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani. I'm joined by Brad Ellis, Daniel Bloodworth.
Yo.
We are recovering from E3, final day. We are recording after everything has concluded. We have now seen Nintendo's E3 2021 Direct presentation. We got a few surprises, and we got some things I think we were definitely hoping to see an update for, and that would be, to me, the most important thing, that Breath of the Wild sequel update.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. Finally.
But without a name.
Still without a name, yeah.
We do not have a name yet. And AJ Onuma, producer of the Legend of Zelda series, presented the new trailer, but also let us know after it said 2022 that they are aiming for 2022. Right. And there have been some people who have taken to social media who, work in the industry, who might have a little bit more insight, suggesting that might even slip a little bit further than that.
Yeah.
And as you said, with no title, it seems like this might actually be a ways off. So.
Still, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. But we did see a lot of stuff here. This is
it's about a minute really in terms of like actual footage.
It felt so long watching it for the first time, and now watching it seems so brief. I gotta be honest, but it feels like there's a lot hidden in here, and I think Nintendo has been very careful to selectively show us certain things in here. So what are your initial impressions of this latest update to Breath of the Wild?
It definitely caught me by surprise going up in the air. I know at the first trailer we kind of saw this thing of Hyrule Castle going up, but like many others, I was speculating about underground stuff a lot more because of the last teaser trailer we saw with them underground. So them just being up in the air was the exact opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah, going to the sky, because I think everyone was convinced we're going underground.
Yep.
We're going to labyrinths. It's going to be like, Zelda 1 had all this stuff underground, and Zelda 2, but
I kind of think that might be sort of the case. It's weird because like when I look at the things that are in the sky, none of it looks recognizable. But because of what we see with Hyrule Castle, I feel like these are chunks that are potentially coming from parts of the map that we're familiar with. So I'm just not really sure how these two things play together. But if you do have, chunks ripped out of the map that we already know, then I think that does leave room to have these underground areas to be able to like jump down there and see what's underneath.
Yeah, I don't get I've seen people speculate that it is just like parts of the surface being raised up into the ground, into the sky, because even in the trailer, both trailers now, we've seen Hyrule Castle being lifted up into the sky, but the visuals of all the islands, those floating islands, don't seem to me to resemble.
Look foreign.
Yeah, they're all this like golden tint to them, and they all look very, I don't know, it looks very distinct, as you would say, and I just don't get the vibe that it is the surface being lifted into the sky or something.
Yeah, it could be stuff from underground or from just in the sky in general we just didn't even know about.
That's right.
Well, I don't think, unless it like somehow lifted down or it came from somewhere else, because it's pretty obvious, right? When you look up here, it's like you wouldn't have missed them. They'd have a hard time saying they're like, oh, these were here all along and you just didn't see them. You do spend a lot of time gliding around in Breath of the Wild.
Now, there are some visual similarities here in tone and style to Skyward Sword, which is
egg-shaped lamps kind of going on,
which is getting an HD port.
It's connecting it all back again
next month.
Right.
And on the heels of that announcement for Onuma that they have no other plans besides that and that Game & Watch collection they're doing to release any other Zelda games as part of the 35th anniversary, why pick Skyward Sword? I mean, this is obviously could just be coincidental, but
could be a connection.
There's a lot of visual cues here that are making me think that. And one of the things about Skyward Sword's premise is that when you look up, you don't see Skyloft from the surface. It's like even though you see normal clouds, you're not supposed to see that from the sky. You see the clouds. And you can see the surface from below, but you don't see specifics. So it's like maybe there's some kind of like
but I think the
magic
thing
thing
different
going on.
To me with that is we, from the spots where we can see the ground, we are recognizing areas.
That is true.
We are
so
seeing
that is
things that look like things that we know.
Key difference. So there is a shot. It's kind of interesting. There is a shot at the end with the Hyrule Castle being levitated up into the air, and in the distance you can see Hyrule Ridge, the Thundra Plateau roughly area, and you don't see anything in the sky above it. But then in a shot earlier in the trailer, you are in the sky looking down. You could see that same area below you. So it does mean these things do suddenly appear out of nowhere at some point. So
yeah, I wonder if that's just not at the beginning of the game. Could be like just further along in the game this stuff happens or something.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a very interesting part of this is, what part of this game is the beginning?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any idea? We were even talking about Link's hair being different throughout this. You've got kind of like a more wild,
loose hair.
Yeah, no
loose
ponytail.
lionish hair, and is that part of a costume? Is that a hat that they're messing around with, or is it
punished Link?
actually a story reason for that?
Because he's also wearing the same kind of outfit that Ganon's wearing at the beginning that we see, with the one sleeve kind of action going on.
Well, yeah, and then that goes into my theory here is that somehow Link is being corrupted by Calamity Ganon, because you see these flash frames at the beginning. First flash frame you see the corruption just taking Link's arm. And then throughout, in a lot of the gameplay afterwards, you see his arm with kind of like these, almost like Twilight Princess. These kind of like squarish, digital-ish kind of pattern, like infecting up his arm. And then this other shot that we see of them like putting some kind of magical binding on his arm, almost to like kind of slow the corruption.
I wonder if it's just Sheikah technology, like the Sheikah Slate or something like that, because it essentially is his Sheikah Slate now. Is his arm.
It looks like from a gameplay perspective it's serving that, since Link's not carrying around the Sheikah Slate. Also, it's drawing comparisons to Princess Mononoke with Ashitaka,
even more,
with being corrupted by the boar in the beginning. So maybe it's drawing some influences from something like that. They are very careful in this new garb Link with this new hairstyle to not show Link's face during it. You see his face in the beginning in his old garb, and you clearly see shots where he's in his old, more traditional attire from the original game, and then in this new garb that we've been talking about. And people have been guessing, is maybe these two different time periods, or is there like a time jump or something?
Maybe his one eye is corrupted and has like a Ganon-colored eye or something.
Yeah.
That's why they can't show it.
But I think it's a fair point, too, because the shot where you see like the little bokoblins like on the platform on top of the rock guy, that looks more like just regular Breath of the Wild, but a new enemy, and Link also looks like regular Link. So it does make me feel like whether this happens in the story like halfway through the game, or you play for 5 or 10 hours and then this happens, or it's really interesting to me to see kind of these variations.
Or maybe you'll just be able to put his hair up or down. I don't know. It could be just something as simple as that.
I mean, so there's a shot where he's falling, and he clearly his like legs are a little bit more exposed, and there's a shot where he's flying where he's wearing more like wintry, like heavy padded boots and leggings, and I mean, obviously the gear system's probably returning in some form like that. So maybe it's just like a transition between his gear over time. It's not. It's actually, we're reading too much into it, but his hairstyle definitely is pretty uniquely different between those two images.
Tony, I think it's just his hair, not a ponytail in the back.
He like Ashitaka, he cuts the knot.
I think it's just that
he can't come back to. That's the thing. He can't come back to Hyrule. He has to stay away.
But the new outfit or whatever, it does look kind of like a sash. Going around like almost.
It almost
like
looks like the outfits in the Team Eco games.
It kind of does. Yeah.
I'm getting that vibe actually. I was like, I can't put my finger on it.
It does look like the kid from Last Guardian.
There you go. That's it. Exactly that. That's what I was thinking of. But let's talk about the familiar older stuff really quick.
Yeah.
Those you talked about, like the bokoblins, Talus, the enemy encampments. Subtle differences there. I think they're just going a little bit more intense. Stacking things on top of each other to like just amplify them. The bokoblins had like some kind of horn thing on them. I don't know if that's decorative or maybe they've been impacted somehow, so they physically transformed because of something. Did any of that like give you any like hints to maybe?
That I'm not so sure about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is maybe just like we have a lot of these. This is going to be in the same world, probably around the same time. We have these enemies already. Let's just add a few little bells and whistles to them to change them up enough where they feel different from the first game. Like, yeah, there's the horns that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Moblin horn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious because enemy variety was one of the small criticisms about Breath of the Wild, and we are seeing a lot of same enemies again. I mean, we do see some unique new ones, but there would be some concern about they get to up the variety of the type of moblins and bokoblins in the game, and maybe this is the way of mixing that because that's what they did in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
Yep.
They started to put those weird elemental spins on everything to try and mix things up a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I don't got a problem with that.
We do see the two kind of newish abilities. The one with the change of stasis where they shoot the ball back.
So, to me, this is how I see it. I don't know if this is how you're seeing it. It's moving in forward time. Everything's moving forward. Link uses his ability to engulf everything there, especially specifically the spike ball, and revert tenet. He reverse entropies it and sends it backwards through time, or just reverses its momentum. And you see that effect that kind of was in Skyward Sword with the time stones, where this kind of like gray, black and white, monotone or. What's the word I'm thinking of?
Gray, like washed out.
Yeah, thank you. It just like expands around where the effect is happening, and I wonder, is that just one of the unique new abilities, or is that more central to like a core theme in the game? Because there's some things here that make me think that there's potentially some kind of like time traveling mechanic, even if it's not like story related. It's like a central tenet of the gameplay perhaps at some point, where because we hear like the weird sound effects that make us think like maybe it's being played in reverse. You see that thing where he like goes backwards with the water splash and then goes through solid rock.
Yeah, that seems to be like, it feels like that's a way that you get up to the sky. I'm curious
time manipulation.
if you can use that anywhere, or if there's certain points where you can see that.
Are these related? How? Yeah, there's
or
so
if
many
you're just
questions.
under an island anywhere, and you can like, okay, that's above me. I can go straight up there now.
So like, I mean, man, I'm sorry. Like now I'm going on a tenant rant here, or like
Let's do
tangent.
it.
It's like what if the sky area is working backwards in time or whatever, and everything on the surface looks like to you everything looks like it's moving forward, but everything on the surface is going backwards. And when you go down there, it flip flops, and maybe that's how you have to like you see a puzzle in the sky area, but like it's almost like Majora's Mask out. Like time's already passed, you missed your window. Now go back to the surface and queue up some stuff, and you can solve the puzzle if you go far enough back. And like it's Light World, Dark World on like that's like amped up, man. That would be insane.
That's why it's taking so long.
That's why because it's open world. Now they're doing two different like planes, the sky and the surface world. It's like, oh man, this is super ambitious. If this is what they're going for, obviously I could be completely wrong.
We could be totally off.
The other thing that we see is the flamethrower on the shield on the left hand.
It looks like an add-on.
Yeah,
because you could still see the shield that you see in earlier shots. It is I forget if I pronounce it wrong. The Zonai, those lizard statue, dragon statue heads in that one southern zone, the tropical jungle area.
Yeah,
forgetting the name right now. It looks like there's some like that mythos might come into play here potentially, and they were like kind of like this unexplained race who just had all these statues around on the surface. Like, what was their deal? What was their story? But in terms of gameplay, are you going to be able to modify your shield and other gear to have like extra layers?
Modify your weapons too. Like if you get a weapon, you can make it a fire or ice type or something maybe specifically.
Like imbuing like your sword or like your shield with like temporary like a fire buff or
like
on a
extra durability or something
like crafting and
well, it also, I would kind of think of it because like you're saying it is kind of odd and interesting that you can see the shield underneath of it, but I'm guessing that they're probably separate items that just kind of bolt on top of your shield. And so then that way, like just gameplay wise, it's simpler that like rather than pulling your shield up, then like okay, you pull your flamethrower up and use that. The other thing I think is worth noting, because that item and the enemy kind of take center focus, but you are underground at that point. That is underground gameplay.
I mean, it could just be a cavern, honestly,
Right.
but like it does invoke the
on
first
Earth
trailer
evil.
where most of that trailer was underground.
Yep.
Link and Zelda were traveling underground, and you have to. I think at this point, it's safe to say that's probably the beginning of the game. What's going on down there, and do you go back to? Is there actually?
Yeah.
Or is there actually 3 layers? Is there underground, surface, and sky? Are they going?
Yeah,
that would explain why it's taking so long.
I just noticed on one of his shields, there's like a similar symbol to the Sheikah one, but it was different. It almost looked like an eye, but it's a little different. I know we'll wrap around to it later, but I'm just curious if that is related to this new civilization tech or whatever that's associated with.
Yeah, that's one thing we have not seen any hint of is other characters, other NPCs.
Yeah.
Like where's all the people who you saw in Breath of the Wild? Obviously, it's been some time since the end of the game. Civilization was rebuilding. What do they have? What role are they playing in this? For gameplay wise and also like narratively. And I obviously they're keeping that under wraps for good reason. And obviously we'll have to wait a little bit to see what they have in store.
We're not seeing this game until next E3.
Yeah, next E3. Next E3. One thing, the glider. This was pointed out on social media.
Different.
It was a great catch by the people who caught that. The glider's design is 1-to-1 identical to an unused concept in the Breath of the Wild the Champions art book.
The book?
That came out.
Yeah.
There is artwork of Link with this exact same paraglider, and it has said like we didn't use it with the like little like streamers that indicate like maybe potentially wind direction.
Right.
So, and that same lizard head flame thing is also in there as well. So it looks like they are taking some concepts they didn't get around to implementing in the first game, and that we now have evidence of in that art book. We're seeing it come to fruition here.
We saw some of that DLC too. Some of those ideas come in.
Yep. So I might suggest people start taking a look at that art book a little more closely. Might get some insight into some other gameplay.
The aliens
mechanisms.
we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the UFOs are coming.
Would it be the first time?
Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to go. There's still so many questions that I have. I think everyone has.
I feel like we just have more questions now than we did before.
Right.
Yeah, like we still don't know if they're going to be like dungeons. There's no, we don't see shrines. I don't see shrines anywhere in this yet. 2 trailers, no shrines. I mean, obviously they could be hiding them. Will there be more traditional style dungeons? Are they going to go for something completely different? That Sky World does look like it potentially has like those ruins or like almost like, I don't know, like altar-looking things that maybe
could be shrines there.
Because that was the original premise for Skyward Sword, is that the surface was actually supposed to be feel like a giant dungeon that you were constantly going through, and maybe the
sky will be that.
It fully realized that concept. Who knows? Also, like the depth and scale in some of these shots of Link falling.
Like he's so high up.
It's like the only game I've seen that does that kind of length of falling was Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush 2, which was insane to me. So like the verticality I'm seeing here is actually very impressive to me.
Yeah. I'm like, I really hope there's no loading between the surface and the air.
I really think that there probably isn't, and I think that the skydiving shot kind of shows that in a way. You're gonna go from some pretty high places, even higher than these sky islands. So, what is the full elevation of this game? It's gonna be crazy.
Do you think the Hyrule, the ground, will be as big as the first Breath of the Wild?
I think so. I think you're gonna be able to go to every single part of the original Hyrule surface. You'll be able to see how it's changed in certain parts. I think the sky, obviously, from what we've seen, is going to have like a lot of big elements to it. But yeah, I mean, we talked about all this, but I do think you will be able to go to that. Some places, they might have changed it. So like, there's no more like Divine Beast of whatever. So you can't go into Divine Beast anymore. Or this town has changed. So maybe that one building is no longer there. Like there'll be changes like that. But I feel like for the most part, there will be a day one video of someone going across both Hyrule's, like how Hyrule evolved in Breath of the Wild sequel, and be a 15-minute walk around Hyrule video for sure.
Yeah, I think. Well, another thing too is we've seen people that have really played around with the physics and gotten high up into the air in Breath of the Wild, and like the distance that you can cover and the elevation you can get already for a game that's built for the Wii U is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So
I bet you it's going to be very easy to go 5,000 meters.
Oh my God! Yeah, it'll be no sweat.
Yo,
man.
50,000 meters. Send it in.
Oh my God!
Achieve it yourself. Season 3 nod right there. You can check that out. YouTube.com/EasyAllies or Patreon.com/EasyAllies. Sorry,
exclusive.
Season 3 is a patron exclusive show, $1 and up. You can check it out. It's episode 1, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You could see Brad and Huber try and glide 5,000 meters in the original Breath of the Wild, and now seeing how you can go in this, it's casual mode.
Yeah,
solved.
casual mode. No.
There's another part of this that I think is interesting from a development standpoint, and it's like they spent all this time developing this map and creating this perfect sense of getting over a hill and okay, what's over there and what's over there and all of this. And there's got to be something somewhat satisfying about them telling the developers, all right, now rip it to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
Just tear it all up. But use what you've got, but tear it all up and do funky things with it. Yeah.
I want you to pay attention to the symbol on the shield coming up, Damiani.
Oh, I think I've seen it.
Right there.
Yeah, it does look very
similar, but
it doesn't have the teardrop.
There's a bunch of triangles underneath of it too.
I mean, obviously there could be, this technology does is reminiscent of Sheikah technology.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's some lost chapter of Sheikah history that's going to be explained here. Obviously, the mural that we've seen time and time again in the original game, also painted on the wall. In the first trailer, the first teaser for this sequel. Alluding to potentially, the speculation whether or not that corpse we see at the beginning being reanimated, whether it's Ganondorf as a Gerudo, is it Demise, is it something completely different? Does this game have no connection to the other mainline games? Obviously, timeline, storyline debate. The only information that's ever been stated is that this is at the very end of all the timelines or whatever. So this sequel should technically be after all of that. But no, Nintendo likes to change their mind sometimes. Maybe they're like, hey, let's connect this to another game. We have a great idea. We don't want to be hindered by past things within the past. If we have a good gameplay design or design idea, we're going with that.
I guess one thing that just makes me think it's Ganon is that the corruption that goes on Link's arm is the same as the corruption from Breath of the Wild that you see of Ganon's littered throughout Hyrule.
It's very, very possible.
Because in Breath of the Wild he took on just that beast form, almost like a primeval kind of form, and not his human form. So his human form could have been just in the ground, sealed away for a long time while his spirit or whatever
seems to be the case from the first teaser.
Essentially got out.
For some reason, Link and Zelda were going deeper underground under Hyrule Castle potentially, and come across
sealed.
This seal. And Zelda series has a history with seals being broken and evil being unleashed, and it having unfortunate consequences. I mean, this evokes so many different tropes. Honestly, because we see Link lying down in a shot with the arm being corrupted, becoming green. So it's that's the same thing at the beginning of Breath of the Wild, where he was in a chamber for 100 years. Is there another time skip in this because of that? And or was he not ready for that power? Ocarina of Time, you were too young to wield a Master Sword. This one is your body couldn't handle this, so it had to cocoon itself and seal itself away, and now you're ready to use this power. And who knows? I mean, it would be a weird, interesting concept if it really was just Ganondorf, and it his essence is starting to possess Link, and that's why we're not seeing his face. And that is maybe there is a mechanic that you have to deal with where you cannot, certain actions will lead it to consume you faster.
Corruption.
Maybe there's an artificial time limit on stuff because of that. To add a little bit more tension. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ideas. The last thing. I don't know if there's anything else you two want to talk about but I want to bring this up because I'm seeing a lot of talk around this. Obviously, there's not enough information to say one way or the other, but I do think some people are coming out of this trailer disappointed on maybe not a small element, but a element that people wanted to maybe get some more information on. Zelda herself. Looks like she's either falling maybe upward or maybe down into a
she looks
dark
like she's falling into like a big trench.
It looked like Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade, like Elsa falling down. It's like, oh, is that it for her? 'Cause people are hoping maybe she'd be playable. People are hoping she'd have a more central role in this game.
Or if not
and
playable,
this trailer
you would
does
travel
not,
with her from that first trailer.
Exactly. That first trailer made it seem like there's potential for like them working together. This is like a completely different direction. And how does that make do you have any thoughts about that?
It doesn't eliminate the possibility, I guess. Like that stuff could still easily happen. I feel like we've seen so little of this game still, like especially on a narrative standpoint. I think Breath of the Wild had a lot more narrative, or quite a bit of narrative, it's like fractured, but there's still plenty of room for Zelda could be included, or a part where you play as her or something, or any of the champions or anyone else you could still play as.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all that too. Yep.
Like they're probably still around doing whatever, maybe, or they're dead. I don't know.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, what are they all up to?
Yeah.
I mean, again, going back to our little Sky Islands. It does look like there's some other type of civilization, between the architecture and the little egg lamps that we're seeing that don't look like that stuff doesn't look like anything from the first game. So I'm curious what that actually references, and like when you see like bits of road and things like that and all these other buildings, they're and this crazy, we didn't even talk about the weird like green like turtle robot thing.
Yeah. So like it looks like it's being powered by the same green aura energy that's like in your arm at that one point, and in the first trailer that was like in prisoning or placed in the seal on whoever that one is. Yeah.
So I think there's definitely like a whole other side of this that we're not getting yet, and a lot of it might not even necessarily be developed yet because they're figuring out abilities, they're figuring out like how you're going to interact with this world, and as Zelda games tend to do, then like they'll get the story laid in afterwards.
Yeah.
I think the bits of story that we've seen at this point are just enough so that they can run with the ideas for how that impacts gameplay.
Well, says 2022, aiming for 2022. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 2 years to get an update on this like we had before. Obviously, extenuating circumstances are definitely a factor in why it took so long for them to show this off. But also the other, I think the last big question mark is just all the rumors around the supposed Switch Pro and this game being tied to Switch Pro's fate. And
I think, as we've seen with Zelda games in the past, I think that the hardware is secondary. They will make this game, and then whatever hardware is available at the time, that's what the game will come out with.
The trailer was in 1080-60, and it is running at 60 frames in a lot of this footage. Like dips in some places, but like there are parts where it's clearly 60 frames. So it's like, hey, open world Zelda 1080-60. It's not really, doesn't seem quite as feasible on OG Switch. So, we might be getting a glimpse. But, hey, you know what? I think we'll hear about it maybe next year. Probably the best case scenario at this point.
Yep.
Zelda wasn't the only surprise we got here. I mean, I think everyone was kind of expecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't call this a surprise.
I think the surprise is what it ended up being. It's it managed to surprise us. Like it's intriguing. It's not as simple as it's just in the same Hyrule again. It looks new, feels new, but something that completely came out of left field. Man, talk about bringing back the past and making something that was like a meme at one point into reality, and a franchise that everyone thinks is just so neglected by Nintendo, and it kind of almost stole the show, I think, at this E3 for Nintendo. Metroid Dread is real.
Metroid Dread is real. Sakamoto was not even like hiding the earlier iterations of it. That was a very interesting talk, and I wish I wish they had showed some prototype footage because
yes.
I have like this like foggy memory, and I don't know if it was like from something that like I saw firsthand at E3 on like a monitor, or if it was something that like somebody else had recorded, like IGN or something. Because remember, we always used to like record footage of those screens,
Yep.
and yeah, like when that was a side-scrolling DS game, like it felt like that was real, but there was not anything, officially released for it, so we could never really get anything. And then Metroid Prime had that little teaser in there.
Corruption, yeah, or was it?
I don't remember which game it was, but there was one of the logs, one of the scan logs where like they had mentioned Metroid Dread.
Metroid Project Dread nearing completion. It's like, there you go.
So wait, I don't know this Dread story. What system was Dread supposed to be on?
I think DS. It was either late GBA or DS, but in that era.
I think it was supposed to be DS, and then there was like rumors it was like going to be like a Wii game or something, or like when Other M was coming around, there were like
Sakamoto mentioned there's a second time that they started it, and I don't know what platform that was supposed to be.
Yeah, I would imagine 3DS or Wii would probably be it, or even still another DS, version of it as well, potentially. But that was in an era where everyone was like post Prime. And everyone's like, well, what's next for Metroid? And this, Metroid Dread was the one gaining a lot of attention because a lot of people were reporting on it, saying it was in the works, and just never came to be. And a lot of people over time just used to reference, hey, remember that Metroid Dread thing that never happened? Because we would get all these crazy Nintendo rumors all the time.
Yeah.
And to see it, it'd be like if we go 19 years into the future and at E3 2040, they unveil Star Fox Grand Prix. Yeah. And it's like, hey, remember Star Fox Grand Prix? We were working on it. It's like that insanity. It's like, wait,
that's
what?
Funny.
Almost 20 years later. But it's real. Name aside, on a conceptual level, it is just like Samus Returns, the Samus Returns remake of Metroid 2. Same style, Mercury Steam developing it. Same visual style, side-scrolling, although there's some over-the-shoulder parts with a new perspective for aiming.
When you like charge certain beams and things, it kind of pulls back, gives you like a little more cinematic over-the-shoulder look.
But still that 2.5D with 3D models being used. But, in terms of atmosphere, the sense of like being hunted by these robots, these Emmys, these the Galactic Federation apparently created, and why are they hunting Samus? And they are these like equivalent of like Resident Evil Tyrant hunting you down.
Right.
Like there's only one way that we saw in the treehouse to even stop them. Otherwise, you have to like do like a quick time thing to get out of their grasp. Otherwise, you're one shot, you're done. Yeah. And you have to deal with those while you're also still playing normal Metroid exploration.
Yeah. They're very specific areas that they show up. Yeah.
I'm into it, dude. I like the idea.
Yeah. How into it is this? Is that seem too overwhelming, or are you kind of like digging that concept?
I think it'll be used well. I don't think it's going to be a constant kind of thing.
Yeah, I just feel that. I've got mixed feelings on this game because I think that in a lot of ways mechanically, there's some interesting elements. But number one, I'm really not a fan of the visual style. I feel like it just looks like an Upres 3DS game to me. And I know like there's probably more effects and things and stuff that maybe that's not fair. But I just feel like a lot of the modeling of the surfaces and the walls, it just feels very angular. It feels, like a low poly almost kind of feel to it. And then when you look at something like Hollow Knight, or you look at something like Ori, and you just like stop and just how gorgeous those games are. And like Ori is like basically the same kind of thing. Like it's a 2D game running on a 3D engine. And it's just phenomenal. And that game is on Switch.
Until you, for whatever reason, Blood, until you pointed it out, my mind was just still stuck that this was a 3DS game. And I was like, oh, no. And then you're like, oh, yeah, duh, this is a Switch game. It looks identical to the 3DS one, but like, wait, this is not on 3DS anymore. So now you point that out, I'm like, oh, yeah, why doesn't this look a little bit better?
This game should look a lot better, dude. It really should.
That is, I was tricked. I was deceived because, I thought Samus Returns for a 3DS game looked pretty good for that. But yeah, seeing what is possible, what else has been done already in that space, it's hard not to dream about that art style being one of those art styles being employed on a 2D style Metroid game. And you know what? Metroid games are few and far between.
I know.
Honestly. So we're getting this. So all right, visually it might be a little bit of a letdown in that department, but yeah, design-wise, like gameplay-wise, what they were showing off in that, did it feel like it was doing enough different from Samus Returns? They still had like the parry stuff.
It feels more fluid. I feel like in Samus Returns, and I never have gotten as far in that game as I want to, but I feel like the parry mechanic always felt like it brought things to a halt, and I think they've really done a much better job here of keeping the action moving, keeping Samus feel more agile. And so, yeah, you are able to kind of parry on the fly. You're able to use it as like a melee attack in other situations. You're able to just slide under enemies to the point that they've like
sliding,
moved the morph ball to someplace later in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. I really like that.
Me
you
too.
also seem to really dig the water-based puzzles they were doing with the volumetric water being drained into different areas like that.
And I think that's probably is an offshoot of Samus Returns as well, because the whole premise with Metroid 2's progression is like you lower the lava level or the acid level or whatever throughout the game. And so I think they already sort of had some of that concept built into the engine, and they're like, okay, so what can we do with this a little bit differently? And so I think this idea of moving water or moving magma from one area to the next to open up different paths and different opportunities is part of that, and in a way that's not so strictly linear, because like with Metroid 2, like that was just like essentially opening up the next level, and now it's like, okay, let's actually turn this into a mechanic that you can play with a little bit better.
Brad, we got to see some new mechanics on display as well. One of them was spider gravity.
You know what it reminded me of?
Spider magnet.
Something
like that.
Something like that, where you could just
It really reminded me of the Iron Boots from Twilight Princess.
Yeah,
like the same kind of like effect going on too. I was just thinking of that, but like
except like suit. Now your whole body.
Yeah, your
you're
whole
all
suit
like
on.
your suit. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's to me it's clearly a play off the spider ball, except you're not in ball form.
Exactly. I kind of dig that, like just taking something and putting a slightly different spin on it. So
which again, because it did Samus Returns, that is already built into the engine. So it's like they just modify how they're using it. And that's not a dig against it, but it just kind of shows like it, and going back to what we were talking about Breath of the Wild, it shows how like these things that you have, that you can then like look at that with fresh eyes and like, okay, what can we take this part of something that's already built, something that was already maybe hard to make work, and do something different with it.
The other thing I found unique was the Omega Cannon. The one thing that can fight back against enemies because of like how long you have to charge it up. So obviously the time they just demonstrated on Treehouse, they had a lot of they left enough space. The room design let it seem like it was a little bit easier. I'm sure there are going to be like more frantic situations where you don't have that time.
That's what
and you
I
have to solve a puzzle to figure out how to make a stretch where you can have enough time to aim on it,
like
charge
get
up
some kind of
fire.
Like boulder to fall down on one of them and pin them down while you charge or something like that.
I really want to make a choice in that game where I burn one of those, use one of those cans to defend yourself, and I want it to be like almost a survival horror aspect resource.
The like Magnum bullets.
Kind of, where you're like, do I want to burn this right now, or do I want to try to hold on to it and get away from this guy?
See, that would be amazing if they let you have that level of decision making where it's like you can use this however you see fit, but there's only this many in the game. And
you got to choose.
I even hope there's too many Emmys that you can't even destroy them all.
That's what I'm hoping too. That's what I'm hoping for.
Like you have to pick and choose which ones you want to use it against, and on subsequent playthroughs, it's like, oh, there was something over here I couldn't get. If I had saved it for this, maybe I could have got some item over here or a secret path.
Although I think one of kind of the Metroid, achievements historically is the 100% item collection.
Well, I was gonna say is like I hope if you could destroy them all, it's near the very end of the game, where it's like you've been through most of the game already.
Like a hyper beam.
Like on a first
playthrough,
it's super hard to find all the charges. So like you're more than likely not going to. So on the first playthrough, it's more likely you're gonna have to pick and choose. Also, as you said, like maybe in a situation like you're in a boss battle, you're really close to beating it, and it's like you have this. Maybe you can actually burn it on a boss and do a lot of damage. But now that's one less shot you got to get the enemies.
Possibilities.
It's also clear. I'd have to go back and rewatch, but I think that there are Emmys with different capabilities.
It's definitely
I think that
seemed
some
like
of them
that.
don't seem to be able to crawl through tunnels while others can. There was one later on that was a different color. That like the first one was white and the later one was green. So I'm curious how those will play out and change, because that can be part of the fear factor as well, right? It's like, okay, you start to get comfortable. You think you know how these things work, and then, they can sense you through like heat or something, and so now your cloaking device is stupid. It doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly, they have infrared or something. I'm almost expecting a part or sequence to have at least two of them hunting you. So that it's like you feel like you're at the end of the game. I'm so confident. It's like now, what if you have multiple hunting you at the same time? Just like that level of franticness. Environment-wise, were you really liking what you saw in terms of like the different like regions? They didn't show off.
They really
much.
only showed off like two very small areas. So the lava, the magma switching thing. I think I'm curious how that actually plays out. I'm also curious because we're only seeing starter regions. I'm curious how much branching there are. Because it did feel a little bit more straightforward, but that could just be part of not knowing the map. Oh, the one thing I did like with the map is the map doesn't really show you the map.
Oh, yeah.
You see like these big chunks of like there's this area over
like
here,
that.
but the detail, you still have to go through there. So there's a lot more opportunity, I think, for being able to have secrets feel more secretive. I think there's a lot of times in Metroidvania games where like you see where the map is and like, okay, well, there's going to be like some dotted line here or whatever where there's another pathway to go up there. And with this, I think that might not necessarily be the case. It might not be as easy as just like tracing the edges to figure out where something might be hidden.
I hope they stick to that. That looks way more enticing, honestly, because older Metro games have already done the other style, as you said, so it'd be nice to get a little bit more lost and have to like fumble away. The extreme of that I think is like a Hollow Knight, because you have to even use an item to even see them at that point. So it's like it really is going to cost you if you want to.
I don't know
track
if they'll
stuff.
get that obscure.
Oh, I think that went a little too far. That game you get a little too lost, but that's what they wanted to go for. This I hope is just like somewhere in between those two extremes for sure. They did acknowledge Metroid Prime 4's existence again. They said it's still in development. It did get a nod, but it does sound like maybe next year we'll hear about it, possibly, or it's even further out than Breath of the Wild sequel. So it's like it's a ways away. But it was still nice to hear them.
Still cooking though.
Talk about
acknowledged,
it. Yeah. Those are probably the two biggest things. I will say, I do want to say I was really surprised at some things that weren't there, namely, no Bayonetta 3. I have no idea what to think at this point. Kamiya can tell me it's coming along just nicely. I don't believe you, dude. You need to show something, man. Come on. Like, where is this game? A little surprised about that. Wasn't too surprised about no Splatoon 3.
Right.
None of the no Pokemon Diamond Pearl, no Pokemon Arceus in there.
No Mario Kart.
Everyone knows the new
deep
Mario
down,
Kart.
I was still holding out hope for
still
Mario
hoping
Kart.
that
There's still,
Mario Kart.
there's still next year or something. They got to have a lot of games.
Same thing every year.
But
so
there was another nice surprise there. There were a lot of good surprises, but this one I think spoke to, especially you as well, Bloodworth. Advance Wars.
Yeah,
making a comeback here.
Dude,
thanks
I did not
to
think we'd see that series ever again.
Way Forward helming this remake.
Wait, Way Forward's making the Advance Wars?
I believe that's what was said. I'll double check while you talk about how.
It's double check because I didn't catch that or
it is
or
a new.
Forgot or
it's the older. It's the
first two.
First
two
games.
Advance Wars. Plus, there's other stuff at the end of the Treehouse thing they were talking about, like multiplayer and other features and things like that. So I think there's a lot more that goes beyond what we've seen today that they're not getting into quite yet. It's coming out December 3rd. But yeah, we saw 2 missions from the original Advance Wars today.
Silicon Air contacted Nintendo and confirmed that WayForward is developing Advance Wars 1+2 reboot with intelligent systems and Nintendo support and advice.
Huh.
Great. I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the look of it. I think it does a really great job of keeping the feel of those original games while making it look very sharp and modern. I like the animated things when they use their CO powers. I like how the little portraits will move and stuff, and they're not just static. There's a lot of little detail in there to appreciate with all the animations. Even the ones that you're eventually going to turn off after 10 hours.
I saw that. I'm like, I know Fire Emblem. I know what's going to happen inevitably here. I will say, I have not played these 2 games.
Ooh.
I've only played Battalion Wars.
Wow.
Both of them.
That's not quite like those.
These are very different games.
I know they're different, but I really love those 2 games. I really love Fire Emblem. I've really wanted to play these 2 games, and now
perfect
I have
opportunity.
No excuse to skip this now.
Yep.
So I am thrilled that these are coming back. And this is a series people have just been asking for them to like.
Yeah.
And I think like there's so many series people ask Nintendo to please revisit, to give it another chance, or just show it some love.
Well,
and
the name is a very intentional name that I obviously there's a pun there, but Reboot Camp. That implies more than just this game. To me, that says like, hey, we're going to start working with this series again, and this is the first taste. This is the way to get the people that know the franchise to get that nostalgia factor, and to reintroduce people now that Switch is just a mega hit. So yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what comes after this.
I am all for this, and. This gives me hope. Next up is going to be Golden Sun. We're going to get Golden Sun remakes coming up. Yeah,
that's their game after Mario Golf.
Yeah, that's happening. There was a lot of stuff in this direct. Actually, there's way more than I thought was going to be in here that they crammed into this 40-minute presentation. Is there any other surprises that stood out to you?
WarioWare was a surprise. I mean,
WarioWare. Yes,
that was definitely a fun, unexpected thing to come up. Obviously they're just quick little party games, but I think, the handheld side of the Switch has not had as much of that kind of thing. So it's nice to see something like that. You can just you can play that on a commute or something, and really have some fun. And then the co-op ability to is like something like that. Like either one of you just doesn't get it. Like the other one is screwed.
Yeah.
So that's fun. I think the Super Monkey Ball remakes were a surprise, and even though they're just remakes, those are great games to have around. Great mini games to have around as well. We got the Tekken crossover with Smash.
Sick.
Yeah, that is
so many
not unexpected
franchises in there now.
Yeah, very awesome that we have now so many fighting game series represented. It almost makes me really wish the last fighter would be a Mortal Kombat character. Just to kind of almost complete that historical legacy of all these old school fighters. Yeah, it would be everyone is really there. But we'll be getting a 40-minute Sakurai presents for that on June 28th or 25th. It's the end of one of those days.
28th.
So we'll be seeing that, and we still got one more fighter to go. So obviously they'll be coming down the line.
I'll say for Huber, Sora. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
we don't think it's Sora, but for Huber.
Yeah,
and we got a really solid look at Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yeah,
that was something that I feel like that
gameplay.
Series needed. They needed this big showing. I think a lot of people are veterans were very impressed with what they saw. From what I saw on social media, people love that Fuse protagonist. Like it's like everyone is just like really digging it, and I think a lot of newcomers are catching this buzz and are gonna like pay attention to something. Also because it's new, it's adjacent to Persona.
Exactly.
The 3 HD re-release
and that.
I think that's really like kind of clued people into like, okay, I've missed this before Persona came around. What is the main series like? You get an idea, and you see that, and it's a very old-looking game, and then you see 5, and like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, it's not, it's not cutting edge, but it's still like, okay, this feels like a modern version of the series, and it's looking really good.
Yeah. This is the showcase it needed. A very well presented direct. Had a Treehouse Live segment, that did a deep dive into it, and yeah, it's I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people when that game finally arrives on November 6th, 11th,
November
12th. There we go.
Yeah.
So, by the way, the end of the year is getting so crowded with releases.
know.
Like October, there's not I don't think there's a free day in October right now.
We don't even,
you can't release
no
more games in October. It's booked. It's reserved. It's at capacity. Try November, maybe December. Maybe we can fit you in December. But
stay away from Elden Ring though.
Stay away from December, please.
Yeah.
December games suck.
Yeah.
There's that rush, that game of the year rush. I'd rather not.
We are getting a deluge of games here. And you know what? Maybe it is best that some of these games are coming out a little bit later in 2022. Maybe with all these games already confirmed, Breath of the Wild sequel coming out in 2022 will actually be a better thing, because now we have a lot to look forward to next year. As you said, Elden Ring got a
kicking the year off right, baby.
Got Pokemon Arceus coming out early next year as well. We got Splatoon 3 that's already dated for 2022. We now got Breath of the Wild, and God of War. Has slipped to 2022, but it will probably
lots of games going to slip. We got a lot of year left for games to slip.
I'll probably be saying the people over at Sony that they're probably really happy about Breath of the Wild not coming out this year for Horizon. Horizon. I have a feeling we will be hearing about Horizon coming out sometime in November very soon or something. Like, hey, it's clear, let's go. And I bet Halo Infinite's like, all right, let's go. We're coming out too now. They're just like wanted to see when this game was coming out and if Switch Pro was happening. So
not yet at least.
I think the dominoes will start falling into place here with these releases. But on the heels of a very strange E3, the first E3 post COVID, but still quite not back to full normalcy.
It's not really an E3.
It's like this weird halfway to E3, like the halfway house E3. It's like, what is this?
Nintendo made it feel more normal with the Treehouse.
That was what I was trying to get at.
Games and just playing games and giving each other crap.
Microsoft and Nintendo felt the most like traditional E3.
Yep.
I mean, obviously the kickoff event with Keighley felt great, even though it was not part of E3. But I mean, there were just some things that happened the past few days that felt like you were just here because someone either forced you to, or you had some obligation to be here, but you really weren't prepared for this, and maybe we'll see you down the line or something like that. Capcom has a lot of stuff obviously that we're going to get to see at some point. Square Enix as well. I mean, they
had a lot of event or Guardians though, at least, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it feels like
it's coming to Switch as well through a cloud version apparently.
Square Enix could have probably just done a Guardians showcase and put out that Final Fantasy Origins demo and called it a day.
Yeah.
But we'll probably talk about this more on like the main podcast.
Exactly.
Too. There's definitely a sense of, like you're saying, people having to prepare showcases because that's all there is. There's no show floor. There's nobody going to go in and give impressions of their games, so they've got to do something.
Yeah,
I guess
is probably the weirdest or biggest missing component from this E3 2021 is just not having the hands-on impressions for ourselves. And a lot of stuff shown also didn't necessarily show a lot of gameplay so much as just showed like footage of the game running in engine. And I think that is such a key part of E3 is seeing all those gameplay videos, seeing all those impressions from all these different outlets, and getting a better sense of what these games are really about. And to be fair, as you said, Treehouse Live kind of like gave the most sampling of that to let people know what these games will actually really be looking like when you play them, how they're actually going to play. And I do appreciate that. I do appreciate them, spending so much time. Like every game got I felt like 30 minutes
like
or more.
Metroid Dread got like an hour.
Yeah. Well, Monster Hunter Stories just kept going with those
like 45 minutes.
But I mean, very good on them for doing that. Like games new games absolutely should get that type of treatment. And even Guardians, despite if people don't think it looks good, I think that was the right call to do that much of a show.
I think
focusing so much on it.
16 showed up, people would have been much more forgiving.
Right.
For Square.
Yeah, then I'd have to spend like 40 minutes on that or something.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, there isn't always time to do all of this.
Correct.
So they gotta pick what they want to focus on.
And there's going to be more shows throughout the year. Everyone likes doing their own thing now.
Same thing with Nintendo. We had a direct at the beginning of the year. We've had this one. I would not be surprised if there's one more thing before the end of the year from Nintendo.
Oh,
some kind.
main directs? Yeah, I could see them being a quarterly.
Yeah.
So this is our second quarter. So, yeah, we'll get another one, probably around or after Gamescom, somewhere in that space.
September has been a good month
and then
for
maybe
that type
one
of
last
stuff.
one in like November.
For sure. Well, anything else from E3 you wanted to discuss before we wrap it up here?
I think we're good.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff there, obviously. Didn't just want to do a straight rundown, going through everything. Wanted to cover the stuff we were most interested or impressed with. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good showing for Nintendo. I was just like, I'll just say, like, I wanted way more Breath of the Wild stuff. And they didn't give it to me. And, like, I just dread that it might be a long wait again for the next morsel of information. And this is, like, something that Zelda veterans are just at this point should be used to. Like, this is how it goes.
Business as usual.
This is how it goes. But you know what? This also might mean that it will be at next E3. We might get an amazing booth next year. And that booth experience. And, like, all of us are back at E3, and we got those news appointments. So that's something I can look forward to and hope for next year is that big E3 2022 blowout for Breath of the Wild sequel, potentially.
Yep.
But, yeah. There was no Q&A for this episode. I just felt like this was going to be
it's
pretty
E3, baby.
It would have been
E3.
too weird.
It's E3,
and
baby.
It was like what you would have put your.
I would have had to make the post say I have done stuff like this before, but we've had some people who we don't want to give some people a little bit of I didn't want to feel like it was unfair to some of our patrons by giving such a short lead time for something like, hey, it's happening today, so save your questions till after in this small window. It just didn't seem like right. So if you really do have a burning question, though, if you're $5 a patron, I'll make a post calling for submissions for almost every other episode. So next time, if you had a question about something E3 related, feel free to submit it next time, and maybe we'll get around to it. We also have some shout-outs for the month of June 2021. So we have some shout-outs for Elthanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, Edsgar Soma Spider, So What, Esdokal, Nick, Blue, Jesse Blue. Shout-out. Well, E3, that's a wrap. I'm so tired. I was like,
we still gotta play demos.
Yeah, we gotta play. We're getting ready to go play some demos, and we got a marathon coming up this Friday. So you're probably watching this. It's probably Wednesday or sometime after Wednesday. Yeah, we still got our official return to the studio marathon stream we're gonna be doing, and I did make posts calling for stream team submissions. So please get those in. If you haven't, you're watching this Wednesday, this is your last day to get them in because we're going to be making that poll tonight. That will be Wednesday night. I'll be making that poll, and you'll be able to vote on those. That's part of the selection squad, our $15 and up tier. So don't miss out on that. The first time we're all back in the studio, we're all playing games together. You get to pick. That's not how Stream Team is. Stream Team's just 2 or 3 of us together playing a game. This is the 8 of us playing a game together, and you get to pick one of them, like old times. So don't miss out on this one. This is the one you really want to get on. So this is your chance. But yeah, thank you, the 2 of you, for
my dude, talk about Zelda.
Sharing
anytime.
your enthusiasm for Metroid and Zelda. I feel like we could talk about so much, but I like keeping these short because, as I said, I'm very worn out. So until next time, everybody, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.